There's a few reasons why your metabolism might be slower than you think it should be. And one of those reasons is definitely related to age, but it's not necessarily just your age. It has to do with what's happening to your body composition as you are getting older. As we start to age, we lose muscle mass. And when we lose that muscle mass, our metabolism slows down because muscle tissue is metabolically active tissue. So as we start to lose muscle, our metabolism actually starts to slow down. Now, this process begins at about 30 years of age. It begins at about 30, 35, somewhere in there. And it really starts to accelerate after 40. This is called sarcopenia. Sarcopenia is the medical term for the accelerated loss of muscle that occurs as we get older. And so if we start to lose muscle, what happens is we start to lose our resting metabolic rate. So if we don't do anything about it, if we don't resistance train, if we don't exercise, as we start to lose muscle, we start to lose the ability to burn calories at rest. So here's what happens. Let's say you're 20 years old and you have a resting metabolic rate of 1500 calories. Just made that number up. Let's say your resting metabolic rate is 1500 calories. Well, as you start to age and lose muscle mass, let's say you're 40 now and you've lost 10% of your muscle mass. Your resting metabolic rate might be 1,350 calories. So you re burning 150 fewer calories at rest just because you re 40 years old and you've lost some muscle mass. If you were to continue on, no exercise, no resistance training, by the time you're 60, let's say you've lost another 10% of your muscle mass. Well, now you're down to 1,200 calories. So as you can see, this can really make a difference over time in terms of your ability to burn calories. In fact, when you go to a website like MyFitnessPal or you download an app like MyFitnessPal, you put in your information, they give you an estimate of how many calories you should consume to lose weight. A lot of times people are shocked at how low that number is and they say, "I can't live on that. There's no way I can eat that little food." Well, that is probably because a lot of people overestimate their activity level and therefore they overestimate the calories that they burn. But a big part of it also is the loss of muscle mass. So what do? We need to resistance train. We need to start lifting weights to counteract this loss of muscle. When we resistance train, we actually stimulate our muscle cells to make them larger, stronger, more metabolically active. So the cool thing is if you're 40 and you've already lost some muscle mass, you can gain it back. You can actually stimulate your muscle cells with resistance training and increase the size of those muscle cells and then increase your resting metabolic rate. So now you're going to burn more calories at rest. Now you're going to burn more calories throughout the day just because you've increased your muscle mass. The other thing that happens when we start to resistance train is we actually start to improve insulin sensitivity. Insulin is the fat-making hormone. When we start to improve insulin sensitivity, well then we're going to start to tap into fat much sooner as a fuel source. So there's another reason why you might have a slow metabolism. And that's because you're doing too much cardio. Cardio is great, but when we do too much cardio without mixing in any strength training or power training, what happens is we start to lose muscle mass. And so if we're doing 30 minutes of cardio every day, 5 days a week, and we're not resistance training, we're going to start to lose muscle mass because when we do cardio, what happens is we start to deplete our glycogen stores. And when our glycogen stores are depleted, we become more insulin sensitive. And when we're more insulin sensitive, we start to tap into fat much sooner as a fuel source. So if you're doing all this cardio thinking that you're going to lose weight, well, you might be tapping into fat earlier, but you're also going to be losing muscle mass and slowing down your metabolism at the same time. So if you want to speed up your metabolism, if you want to burn more calories throughout the day, you got to mix in some resistance training. You got to start lifting weights, doing some form of strength training 3 to 4 times per week. So if you're ready to go ahead and take control of your metabolism, take control of your health and start strength training, I'd recommend that you get started with a program that teaches you the correct form and technique for all the major lifts. That way you can avoid injury and get the results that you're looking for. Hey, before you go, if you're benefiting from any of my content, I would love to hear about your success story. Please share it in the link down below.